What do Star Wars, He-Man, and K-12 school districts have in common? They all rely on interconnected universes, clear systems, and a team of people fighting for a shared mission. But in education, we often isolate our heroes into silos, leaving teachers, tech coaches, and curriculum directors to fight their own battles entirely alone. Well, today we're talking about how to break those silos down, streamline professional learning, and build a master plan for district-wide collaboration. Welcome once again to Building a Culture of Collaboration podcast. I'm Kurtis Hewson, lead learner and co-founder of Jigsaw Learning.
And I'm Lorna Hewson. Today we are exploring the intersection of innovation, vulnerability, and systemic support. We dive deep into how leaders and teams can move beyond surface level cooperation to create environments where everyone, students and staff alike, all truly thrive. Our guest today is a digital learning strategist who knows exactly how to build a collaborative universe. Jeff Bradbury is an ISTE and ASCD 20 to Watch award winner, a TEDx speaker, and the creator of the globally recognized TeacherCast educational network. He is currently a digital media teacher at a middle school, an adjunct instructor, and the author of the brand new book, Impact Standards, Designing District Systems That Power K-12 Learning. Whether he is talking about building professional learning communities or debating 80s pop culture, Jeff is dedicated to helping educators save time and maximize their collaborative impact. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. That is an amazing introduction. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here today.
So
Jeff,
good to have you.
yeah, great to have you. And before we jump into everything, and we're going to have a little bit of fun with some 80s pop references here too. We always ask for our guests to share with our audience a first minute freebie, something they could take away in the first minute of our conversation. So, what's something that you could share with our listeners that could be an immediate takeaway to support building their culture of collaboration?
Wow, good question. I'm going to look at this kind of in three different ways. And
Awesome.
we can certainly get into this as we go through here. My first love is music. I've got 2 degrees in music. I've got my master's in conducting, actually. And there's a lot of similarities I found over the years between conducting and being an instructional coach slash being a teacher, and most importantly, being a parent. And that's the whole concept of you never can really be sure what you've learned until you look backwards.
Yeah.
And no matter whether you're on the podium conducting a group, you're always putting yourself into 3 spots. Where am I? Where am I going? And where have I been?
Mm,
And if you're a coach, especially if you're a parent, you're always sitting there going, how do I move? How do I manipulate? How do we move forward? How do I, whatever that verb is, all of that has to be strategically generated by figuring out where we were. What
mm.
did I do to cause, inspire, change, whatever? And then how can we move forward based off of that? I've got this weird thing that my first conducting teacher taught me, and I say this a lot, but our job as conductors, our job as coaches, our job as teachers, and our job, especially as parents, is only one thing and one thing only. We're here to inspire. And so
Mm.
how can we do that in a way that moves that needle forward, no matter if we're on a stage or in a classroom?
Oh, that's a beautiful question.
Yeah, absolutely. I really love that opportunity for reflection, right? Like we have to look back and think about what did we do that led to this current
Yeah.
place that we're at, whether that's a positive or negative outcome, and yeah, then how do we move forward? Love that, Jeff. So, Jeff, I was really interested when we had you share some pre-conversation resources. You made reference to Star Wars and He-Man, so we're going to kind of build this in as we go along. So, as a fan, we know where everything is part of that massive interconnected universe. So, in your new book, Impact Standards, and I'd love for you to share a little bit about that book with our audience, you argue that school districts need to be looked at the same way, that interconnected universe kind of idea. So, how does viewing a district as a single connected ecosystem fundamentally change the way curriculum and teams collaborate?
Well, I want to jump into the world of genealogy. It's a weird place to start for education, right?
Yeah.
I was a instructional coach for more than 15 years. And I've been an instructional coach in multiple school districts, big school districts, small school districts. And and I've had the opportunity over the last 15, 20 years to work with instructional coaches across the country, actually. And that's, you mentioned I work at a university coaching grad school and coaching grad students in instructional coaching. When you're looking at this through the lens of genealogy, you start to figure out what your relationship is to each other and to the subject matter. For instance, one of the things that happened in one of the schools that I was coaching in is you realize that, okay, I was a quote tech coach, but Kurtis, as an example, could have been a reading coach. Now, what's my relationship to him? Maybe we're in the same exact school. Well, my relationship to him could be something, and it unfortunately could be nothing. For instance, my upper was the tech department, ultimately going to the director of technology. Let's just say Kurtis went first to the principal and then to the curriculum leader and then to essentially the assistant superintendent of curriculum, right? Are we third cousins? Are we second cousins? Are we brother and sister? Like, where do we land with all of that stuff? And all of that has to do with the fact that when I walk into a classroom and I say to a teacher, let's strike up a pose, let's do a coaching cycle, what can I help you out with? Is that teacher going to say, yes, let's do this, Mr. Tech Coach? Or are they going to say, well, my principal who's in charge, who's being told by the curriculum leaders, I need to work with that coach. And that's where I'm supposed. And so, like, where do you go and how do you work?
Yeah.
That's a long way around. We need, as a school district, to have a strategic vision for where things are going to go. And we need to figure out what our roles are. We need to figure out which direction everyone's working on. If I'm the technology style coach, let's say, and you're the reading style coach, well, aren't we learning reading through, and I use that word a lot, through something like a reading application?
Yeah.
Because I hear it all the time. My technology doesn't need to be coached. Thanks. But my students do need to get help with reading. So I'm going to go to that person, not this person. And we can talk about this more today, but that actually, unfortunately, leads to so many instructional coaches not knowing what their job is, that leads to instructional coaches suddenly realizing that they're going back in the classroom. Last year, I found out that some major school districts in the country are now down to 5, maybe 2 instructional coaches, where last year they used to have 15 to 20.
Yeah.
And so when we're looking at putting together this cohesive idea for how do you move things forward in an interconnected world, I'll do the genealogy. Does mom and dad work together? Are they on the same page? Is it all the same moving forward? Does the technology world and the curricular world know how that works? So that's where I came up with impact standards. It's not technology standards. It's not this or that. It's how do we create a strategic vision that is then curricular based, standards aligned, and supported by instructional coaching. And then if we can put all that triangle together, what does it look like, and what is a model, and how does it actually being shown, seen, and celebrated by the community? And the community is not just teachers, but moms, dads, community, etc. How is all of that put together? So the book is a journey, the intercollective, massive universe, however we want to call it. It's all one big, huge thought of how do we get that student across the bridge?
Yeah,
Jeff,
that's so interesting because, of course, in the end, we all have the same goal. We want to be able to see students succeed. So we all have that end goal, and yet and we see this happen all the time, that people have different roles, different departments, and we try to operate on the same end goal, but apart from each other. And so I love that idea of alignment and coherence, and how do we create that interconnected universe? Because in the end, we're trying to do the same thing.
I asked this question at the beginning of all of my PD sessions. Now, if you're listening before ISTE, don't give it away if you're in my session. But I go into every single one of my sessions and I ask my coaches the same question. What's your job?
Mm.
Nobody knows the answer.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's where we have problems. And if you're in my grad class, we write a paper on it and we talk, we have a nice conversation. So many instructional coaches don't know what their jobs are.
Yeah.
They tell me that their job is to work with teachers. They tell me their job is to help out students. They tell me their job is to, that's not the job of an instructional coach. If I'm a superintendent and I create, with the help of my team, community, etc., a strategic plan, and that strategic plan says it's going to be, we're going to raise our reading scores by 10%. How am I going to do that?
Mm.
I'm going to hire a reading coach.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the job of the reading coach? It's to raise the scores.
Yeah.
How they do that is through, there's the word again, working with teachers and building newsletters and coaching cycles and doing the student thing. But that's not their job. That's how they do their job.
Right.
And if we can get instructional coaches to figure out what their job is, then we might have a chance of getting principals to realize what the job of a coach is. Because the principals mostly say, oh, my coach goes in and works with teachers.
Yeah.
No, that instructional coach is actually the way you're going to get your school improvement plan passed.
Yeah.
Because your school improvement plan is based on the strategic plan.
Jeff, we hear this as a common thread. Obviously, we talk with a lot of different guests around building this culture of collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
And we repeatedly hear what you're sharing with us now of,
oh, good.
How can you collaborate if there's no clear target that we're moving towards collectively, if we don't have that clarity? And I love that idea that everyone's job is to move towards that focus, that singular task. How you do that is going to depend on your role.
Right.
But everyone is moving towards, I love that. Without clarity of purpose, how can you get people collaborating together?
Well, here's the secret to that. As a technology coach, my job is also to raise the reading scores.
Yeah.
I just do it by making sure that you're digitally organized.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Jeff, when we think about, you had mentioned before, the professional learning that we're engaging in on a consistent basis with our instructional coaches, with those leads, but that traditional professional development is often a one and done event where teachers sit in a room and listen and get. And we know that that's not an effective way to really approach that professional learning. But when you look at that professional learning through the lens of building a culture of collaboration, what does that a truly collaborative, ongoing professional learning system look like?
It looks wonderful, to be honest with you. And this goes back to the fact that coaches don't realize what their job is. And if I'm a broken record today, cut me off, right? If you ask 9 out of 9 instructional coaches what a coaching cycle is, I bet they would tell you something like this. I go into a classroom, I meet a teacher, I sit down, I have a conversation. I go into that same classroom and we have a meeting and we talk about the statistics and the scores and the lessons. I go back again and we build a bunch of stuff. Well, if I do that with each of you, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I have to build a relationship with each of you. And that might take 5 minutes for one of you and 3 or 5 weeks for somebody else. And I have to figure out the game and I have to know, and maybe you're having a bad day and it's not a good time for me. So I got to come back next. So if we look at a traditional coaching cycle, like we hear every other instructional coach talk about it. Yeah. If we look at those as horizontal, we're spinning our wheels because I have to go to 100 different teachers in a building.
Yeah.
However, if we turn that on its side and we look at a coaching cycle as being vertical, then you hit every single person and you can target it. And here's what I mean by that. I do a lot of speaking to coaches about their communication. I'm going to send an email and I'm going to send an email. Oops, that doesn't work. I'm going to make a newsletter. That doesn't work. I'm going to make a website with everything on it. I'm going to make the world's best coaching. So what? If I sit down with my principal at the beginning of the year and we target 3 or 5 goals for me for the year, one of them is going to be, I don't know, better use of Google Classroom. Let's just use that as an example, right? We've got these new features of Google Classroom that do these great things. Awesome. Fine. I can go to 100 teachers and say, how you doing? Great. I'll come back tomorrow. Hey, how you doing? How's the family? Great. How you doing? How's the family? How's your technology? And I can do that until finally November I get in, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Or I can look at this and say, okay, can I have 10 minutes in our next faculty meeting? Yeah. And by the way, can you introduce me and the topic? Okay. So now the principal gets up and says, today we're going to learn about this brand new thing that I like to see everybody try.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see everybody trying this. This is one of our pillars for the year. Jeff, go share that. Jeff gets up, does a 10-minute demo. Here's the overall. Great. Thanks. So what? Boom, move. After the 10 minutes, principal gets up and says, what'd you think? By the way, starting tomorrow, Jeff's going to meet with all the 5th grade teachers. After that, he's going to meet with all the 4th grade. After that, he's going to meet with all the 3rd grade teachers. So now it's already pre-planned. I've met with everybody. And then starting tomorrow, I've got grade levels. Now, I've already planned out with my principal that I'm really focusing on 3rd and 4th grade. But for right now, we're going to get everybody. And with my principal, I've really focused on, okay, I want this teacher, and this teacher, because from the data that we have, those are the issues. After my 10 minutes, I send out a little email to everybody, maybe just to certain people, maybe to everybody. And I go, thanks for having me. These are the things. I can't wait to see you tomorrow. When I get to that 3rd grade or 4th grade meeting, I'm doing a similar concept, but I'm specifically doing it for the 3rd grade curriculum.
Yeah.
And the 4th grade curriculum. And in my meeting, my only goal is to say, oh, by the way, tomorrow when you're under prep, I'll be out. So I'm using everybody to get to the 5th grade, 4th grade, 3rd grade, to then get to the smaller. And so by the time I actually get into your room, you've seen me 5 times and I know you by now. And I can go, Kurtis, let's talk about that water cycle. How can we do that differently? What are you thinking? I don't have to sell it as, Kurtis, let's talk about Google Classroom.
Yeah.
Because I've already met you and we've already talked about the things that you're working on. So by the time I see you one-to-one, we're moving fast.
Yeah.
Now the principal knows, hey, he's hitting everybody. And maybe along the side, maybe I get Jane and John and Joe and whatever, right? I wouldn't have gotten them if I spent 2 weeks on Kurtis and 3 weeks on John and 4 weeks on... I'm not going to get to 100 people, but maybe I'll get to 50. Maybe I'll get to 10. Maybe I'll get to those 3. So that way, when the principal does go in and do their evaluations, they're going to say, oh, Kurtis is using it. Jeff, good job. And I've got the data to back it up. Vertical, not horizontal.
I love that too, because in your horizontal model, you're essentially having to do that 10-minute that you talked about 100 times.
If you're lucky.
Potentially. Yeah.
And some of that you could start that in March, depending on, right?
Yeah. I had the same perspective, Jeff, as a principal, where yes, of course I'm going to be doing classroom walkthroughs through each of my classrooms, but I'm going to try and leverage the teams so that I'm meeting with teams to be able to work on what are the goals they're trying to improve upon and do it that way, because then rather than me trying to impact all 50 of these classrooms, I'm doing it through teams and they're going to start impacting one another too. That, Jeff has met with this particular individual, but now they come back to their team and they start sharing it and being able to say, hey, Jeff met with me yesterday about the water cycle. Let me show you something that I set up in my Google Classroom to get that. And all of a sudden, your impact is getting spread across multiple people rather than one individual at a time. Have we got...
And where does all of that come from? That's because there's a strategic goal that says we're going to raise the interactions with Google, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
Great. That strategic goal is now my building goal, which is now the coach's goal. If the coach is the way that the principal and the super are going to pass their goals, you can't fire me. I'm suddenly not the guy that just walks into the classroom. I'm the way you're going to pass your exam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah, no, I need 15 to 20 of, I need the reading coach. I need the math coach. Because guess what? I got math goals too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not expendable.
So,
Yeah.
Jeff, I want to continue along this thread, but tell us a little bit about TeacherCast. I'm
Yeah.
really excited for audience to hear about TeacherCast. What is it? What does it do? And then we want to dive into some further ways through
That's the
that
part
platform of how you build up these collaborative teams.
that is the hardest question. What is TeacherCast? Let's start from there.
We'll be right back to continue this episode. It doesn't take long for any teacher to realize that explicit expectations and routines are necessary for a large group of students to engage in meaningful activity, regardless of what they teach. Although we recognize this is true for any classroom, we don't always take the same care to design careful expectations and routines for adults. We establish a time to meet and clarify a purpose, then bring team members together. Since we are all adults, there is no need for rules of engagement, but very quickly we discover, just like in the classroom, dysfunctions within the team will persist, such as coming late, checking phones consistently, working on sending emails throughout the meeting, along with many others. So how do we guard against this happening? The easy answer is we need to co-develop team norms. Download our free Guide for Leaders to Develop, Sustain, and Reinforce Effective Norms for Team Success. This guide provides you with step-by-step instructions on how to develop your team norms. Access the guide at bit.ly/team norms guide. That's bit.ly/team norms guide. Norms provide the essential foundation for our teams to commit to working together, reflecting on what each team member needs to be successful and leading to the articulation of an agreed upon set of guidelines assist us when working effectively as a team. And now back to our conversation.
July 11th of this year, it will be 15 years old.
Oh, wow.
It originally started when I was when I was a high school orchestra teacher, and my school district said, "Do you want to teach some PD classes?" And I said, "Sure." 2011, the iPad was out. Nobody was new. I was that first follower and went, "Let's try this." And then next thing I know, I'm a coach, et cetera, et cetera. But over the years, it basically has become my handbook. I started doing podcasting. I got into PD. I started with a group of others, Ed Camp, New Jersey, which ran into my favorite story from doing Ed Camp, New Jersey for a few years was there was one year that the cops came and tried to shut us down because we had too many cars in the streets and parking lots. If you have 1,100 teachers show up on a Saturday for some free bagels and donuts, you must be doing something, right?
Yeah.
But over the years, it is my way that I've been able to meet amazing people like yourselves, have a conversation, and share that.
Yeah.
All of my podcasts are just, and I say this, well, when you guys come on the show, we're just having dinner. I happen to be recording it, right?
Yeah.
Let's just do this. But if you go over to teachercast.net, you'll see thousands of shows. I've got 2 right now that I'm running. One's called Digital Learning Today. It's mostly my ed tech stuff. I've got one called the Jeff Bradbury Show. That's like my non-teacher stuff. We talk entrepreneurship and marketing and branding. So I kind of get the yin and yang of my soul. But for out all of that stuff, there's a lot of instructional coaching work. The website for that is yourdigitallearningcoach.com. And essentially, I've been able to catalog all of my coaching. So do you want a job? Do you want to build a resume? Are you a first-year coach? What's your first 90 days? What's your last 90 days? I've had the privilege through TeacherCast of so much. Wouldn't be working in a grad school. My book wouldn't come out. Like all of that wonderful stuff. 15 years is a 15 years, right? My triplets are only 12. TeacherCast helped me become a parent because now I have access to amazing people. It's taken me around the world in many ways, like both analytically, but also being able to go to an ISTE conference and being a featured speaker and going to Keynote and going to all these. It's my heartbeat.
Oh, that is fantastic. And I assume over 15 years, that network has just ballooned out of other educators such as yourself wanting to connect and learn from others as well.
It's pretty amazing. And I don't again, I don't going back to your first question, you don't know where you are until you turn around. And
Yeah.
that's a reason why it's always right there behind me. If you look in the camera, no matter how many times I'm looking this direction, it's always, don't forget that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So, through those experiences, obviously the learning has been immense over those 15 years. I wonder from your perspective, and I'm really interested, like again, we talk about building effective teams and collaboration and what does that look like? How do you see digital tools and digital media supporting that work when you must have teachers that say, "Oh, I can't take one more thing on my plate." How can we use those tools to really foster collaboration and share practices and then ideally amplify teacher voice?
Well, again, you're talking to the triplet dad, right? So
Yeah.
how do we use digital technology to be able to get more done, right? Um, I started helping teachers with educational productivity a couple years ago. Showed them how to. One of my favorite sessions that I used to do. I don't really do it much more with adults. Stop, drop, and get organized. And this was back in the. Here's how you organize your folders. Here's how you do Gmail labels. It's all of that kind of stuff. And with all the ed camps, those sessions were full.
Yeah.
Every single ed camp. How do you organize your UDoc sheets, like all of that stuff? And we went into naming conventions. And so I don't do that a lot now because we're past all that. But then that turned into, okay, let's build out some systems. A couple weeks ago, I was able to present at Casey Bell's Shake Up Learning Summit. And I did 2 sessions there, one on how to use Notion, which is a free based tool to create data dashboards and communication systems and organizational structures. And then how do we really put that on its side using AI to build agentic organizational structures? So right now I can go into my Notion, I can say, what do I need? And it just pops right out. And I can say, help me write a blog post or give me podcasting show notes, or where was my bio? I'm on this person's podcast. Make this bio match the audience of, all of these different things that we're seeing right now. You have to, especially now, even if you don't have triplets,
Yeah.
please, right? Even if you don't have triplet, organization is the key. Making sure that you have the opportunity. My job is not to sit here and write blog posts. My job is to spend time with my family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and
Yeah.
this is again for any leader that's out there listening, you're basically sending that message of build systems and then let
Yep.
the systems do the work.
100%. Even as an instructional coach, I was the one that was always raising my hand to my administrator. Hey, can I build that for you?
Yeah.
I learned very quickly. You want to get ahead in the world? Learn Excel.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true. And it's so interesting that you talk about your triplets and your work in schools with music and technology and how all of those intersect in that way of organization and and then the necessity of making sure that you've got things together and in a systematic way.
You have to start somewhere. If, let's say, Kurtis and I are working on a team and I name my Google Doc chapter 1 and he names it CH period 1.
Yeah.
Not compatible.
Yeah.
So even at its basic, right? And I've had the opportunity to sit down with curriculum leaders going, look, you can't rewrite all of your curriculum if people don't know what things are named.
Yeah.
Now,
So true.
I will tell you, Google, I'll say it here. I say it almost every day. Google is wonderful until it needs to be. There is no tool in Google Drive that says select all and automatically batch rename something.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be great, right? So I have my ways of doing that, but at the same time, like, Google doesn't make things easy for this.
Yeah.
So you have to come up with a system. You have to have somebody that's going to say, no, we're going to name this CHAPTER space ones colon the water cycle homework assignment.
And really, that you're just talking about how do we create consistent
Basic
communication,
basic communication, because
yeah,
nobody's going to remember that until somebody goes into Drive and goes, oh, wait, I did that assignment like 2 years ago. I haven't been able to find that yet.
yeah,
Well, if you could type in the water cycle, like,
yeah, absolutely. So, I'm going to jump in on this one then, Jeff. We see this all the time with school leaders who I've set up teams, but it feels like they're disconnected. It feels like if I'm not in the room, nothing's getting done. I hear that. And again, I think it comes back to the systems that we set up. But in your mind, what would you say to those leaders that is the number one thing within even your impact standards framework that you think gets people all speaking that same language that you're talking about? How do I go about doing that as a leader that's struggling with it?
call me and make an appointment. I'll come to your school tomorrow.
Excellent.
But seriously, it you have to care about this. And I'm not going to say that as people don't care. Like, don't read that.
Yeah.
This doesn't happen from the underneath, right? Says the guy that was an instructional coach trying to go up 3 layers of central office to go, no, this is how it was. One of my favorite projects, and I'm so proud of the work that my team and I did. I was tasked with bringing in Microsoft Teams into a 25 building school district.
Mm.
I failed. I had everything organized. I built out SharePoint, all of this. But at the end of the day, if the leader doesn't want to move with it, it doesn't matter how good it is. So tons and tons of time. And at the end of the day, if I can't move the thing up on top, or if there's no care, or there's no commitment, or whatever that right word is, right? Difficult, very difficult. However, if you're in charge and you say, we're all naming this chapter 1, the water cycle, people go, got to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that clear messaging that's coming from leadership is really key.
Have you ever seen the video? You guys will probably have this in like your leadership circles. Have you ever seen the video of the guy dancing on the hill?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I good. I'm glad. Good. So I write about this in the book. I show this at all of my sessions too. There's a video out there. It's got 10 or 11 million at this point hits. But
yeah. How to start a movement.
How to start a movement. You got a guy dancing on the hill and he's shaking his tush and the whole deal. And there's a narration and he's out there dancing. And the next thing you know, you've got another one single person. And his job is to validate the point of the top.
Yeah.
So now you got 2 guys going. And then a third guy comes. And then the third guy's looking around. He starts doing that. And then next thing you know, it says right in the video, you can see this, 2 to 10 other people show up.
Yeah.
And now you've
they
got
all
a
start
group.
flooding in.
And then after 2 to 10, it doesn't look like you're an outsider. And then you've got 5 over here. And then everybody stands up. And so we call the person that dances first the lone nut. And then you've got the first follower. And then you've got, and I always ask the question, and again, this is one of those, everybody gets it wrong. Everybody gets it wrong. Who's the first person that's dancing?
Yeah.
Oh, it's the instructional coach. No,
Oh.
it has to be the superintendent. If the superintendent is using PowerPoint and telling us that we're a Google school,
Yeah.
so the superintendent starts to dance and say, we're doing Google Classroom. Great. If the principal doesn't back him up, are the teachers going to care about Google Classroom? So the principal finally says, great, I'm going to do the Google Classroom thing. I've got it in my newsletters. I'm going to build my intranet out of it. I need somebody that's going to carry this message to the masses. Who do I call? The third person is the instructional coach.
Yeah.
So the instructional coach starts getting up and this is vertical, right?
Yeah.
Dancing with the principal's dancing because the principal's dancing with the super. Next thing you know, 3 to 5 teachers get up. Those are your lead people.
Yeah.
That's your 2%. And okay, well, if the lead 4th grade teacher is going to do, I guess the 4th grade is going to, so now the 4th grade team is going to come on. Well, if the 4th grade team is going to come on, the 3rd and the 5th grade team. And then next thing you know, the building's moving. The instructional coach is not going to be successful if he's the first one dancing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody above him has to go, that's Jeff. He's going to help raise the reading scores. You need to be following that. He's going to show you what to do because he's the expert. And then let the dancing happen. And if not, you're going person to person saying, would you like to dance with me? I'm the only one dancing. Would you like to dance with me? I'm the only one dancing. Would you like to? And that's why horizontal coaching cycles, I'm sorry, don't work.
Yeah. So then, Jeff, how do you respond for the instructional coach that's listening to this and saying, I get it. How do I get my superintendent dancing? How would you respond to that? We'll be right back to continue this episode.
We constantly hear the question, what leadership books are people reading? Can anyone suggest a great book focused on strengthening teams and building robust cultures of collaboration?
Well, we've got you covered. We've compiled a list of 102 must-reads for school leaders directly from our bookshelves. No AI-generated list here. There are so many authors who have guided our work in collaborative response and continue to influence us as learners and leaders in education.
Access this curated collection of our top 102 books for building a powerful culture of collaboration by going to bit.ly/102reads. That's bit.ly/102reads.
We hope you enjoy this curated list. And now back to our conversation.
I teach a grad course. No, I'm kidding. No, seriously. The Fort Hays State in Kansas is amazing. They actually let me create 4 different grad courses around the book. Amazing. Like I chopped the book. Again, I'm a conductor. So the book is my symphony. Every section is a movement of the symphony. I wrote 4 different grad courses on the book. Amazing, amazing. It's not for everybody. You can't, outside of having the principal come and sit with me, which I've done successfully, it's very tough. It's very tough because you're going to walk in there as the ISTE certified Google guru of my this, my that, and they're going to go, I don't care.
Yeah.
My first instructional coaching job, I walked in with my Google trainer badge gone because my superintendent was calling me the Google god. I was toast. Without even realizing I was toast. Yeah. Right. So a lot of what I talk about, honestly, comes from just failing, but first attempt at learning. Right. So if you have a coach that's sitting there going, my principal isn't the ISTE type. My principal doesn't even know how to spell ASCD. Okay. How do we do this? Right. So it's not always an easy thing. And again, that's why we're running out of instructional coaches. If you don't see the value, the superintendent's not going to pass a strategic plan if the principal isn't dancing to it. And the superintendent's not going to pass his plan if the principal's not saying, okay, guys, this is how you do things. Because the principal's not going to be in every classroom every single day, but the coach can.
Yeah. Well, we often talk about from that strategic plan, how can it funnel down so that our teams understand the goal, like you mentioned before, the goals, and then what are they doing to move it forward? And then how does the coach help us to move that forward? But it's that, again, I love your reference to the vertical alignment that has to happen, because if every teacher is thinking that they're going in a different direction, and then every team struggles because there's 4 people all trying to go different ways, but then we have 4 teams that are also all going different ways, you're hooped. Right?
Let me throw it this way. As a violin player, I get my sheet music. All I'm seeing is the violin part. Yeah. As a cello player, I only seeing that. As the trombone, I'm way in the back, and maybe I have 50 bars of rest before I go, and I'm done, right?
Yeah.
As the conductor, you get to see everything. So let's translate that. The 3rd grade teacher's not meeting with the superintendent about his goals.
Yeah.
No.
However, if done right, the coach is in some of those meetings because they're brought with their coach champion or their boss or whoever, right? It's the instructional coach that, and I love this term, I use this a lot. I got this from my second teacher. You are the conduit between the top and the bottom, if you want to look at it that way.
Yeah.
I'm never, ever going to meet Mozart or Beethoven, but I can look, I can study, I can get all the ideas, I can figure all of this stuff out. So that way, when I stand up, I can say, I think this is what it looks like. I'm pretty idea. Let's have a conversation. Maybe the winds can try it this way or that way. Maybe I play the fiddle a little bit. Now, as a coach, I can walk in and go, look, we're trying to raise the reading scores. What do you guys think? Here's my ideas. Let's work together.
Yeah.
However, you're not going to, the third grade teacher just doesn't see that stuff because they're in third grade teacher world.
Mm-hmm.
That coach is the conduit between the strategic vision and this, I hate saying and the test scores, but and what does that look like when it finally gets to be realized? And that's why your instructional coach is literally the most important thing that you could have times 5 or 10 in a district.
Mm-hmm.
And they all have to work together, right? I can't be seen as your second cousin. I have to be seen as your teammate.
Yeah.
So why do so many school districts put the curricular coaches over here and you're the tech coach over here and we never meet because our bosses don't like each other and we can't get the it,
Yeah. It goes right from where we started this off of creating that clarity across the ecosystem, right?
100%. And in the book, we talk about a coach champion. And I didn't make up that term. I got that from another coaching book. But somebody has to be your biggest advocate. Let's face it, an orchestra does not need a conductor. There's plenty of orchestras. My third grade orchestra does not need me. They're not looking at me anyway. They just play. My job is to keep everything moving.
Mm-hmm.
And it starts with here's the beat and it ends with here's the conversation and the feeling and all that other yummy stuff. But that's your coach. That's why there's a lot of similarities between a coach and a conductor. Like it's the same conversation. Your classroom is the stage, and then we can talk about being a parent all you want because that's the same idea.
Absolutely. Well, you are most definitely speaking our language.
Yeah.
Because we fully believe that when we have stated from that district level that we have a priority that everyone needs to live and understand that. And that means the leaders, first of all, and then everyone else coming after that. And if we have that North Star that we can all work toward, then things become more and more clear rather than the dependence on either the teachers to make it happen, like here's my goal, but the teachers are going to make it happen, or an instructional coach is going to make it happen. We truly need to be focused on that North Star, but all working in that same direction.
And everybody needs to know that. It's not just let's get together at the beginning of the year and I'm going to give a speech and here's my PowerPoint and I'll see you later when I walk into your classroom with my clipboard.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we doing this? Every single one of my lessons, I teach middle school now. Every single one of my lessons has to do with our strategic plan.
Yeah.
Now, why? Because I took the strategic plan, I stuck it into Notion, and I said, every one of my lesson plans needs to hit these goals.
Yeah.
So that way, when anybody walks into my room, they can say, what are you doing? Well, I'm checking off the boxes because we're all moving in the same direction.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. So we started this off, Jeff, with a little bit of a play towards Star Wars and He-Man. And
yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. I can remember being the kid watching the cartoons and having the action figures and the phrase of "I have the power" that comes up. But I think this is one of the things that happens with leaders that are trying to get into strong collaborative structures and think they have to keep that power. And one of the things we have to understand is actually great collaborative leaders give that power away. So can you speak to us a little bit about giving that power away and how do we empower our teachers and our instructional coaches to take ownership of that strategic vision?
Mm-hmm.
There is an amazing interview that happened a long time ago between Kara and Walt Mossberg and Steve Jobs at the D23 conference. And you can find clips of this, and if you find when we can clip to it, but Basically, they asked a little bit about how Apple runs. And he basically said Apple is like a big startup. We put everybody who's in charge of something in a room and we just share ideas. And I'm the last one to speak. And Amazon's kind of that similar. I've heard that one, Jeff Bezos, he's always the last one. You always go down rank and file. That way, everybody gets it. And one of the questions that was asked of Steve was, does anybody ever tell you that you're wrong? And he goes, of course they do. They'd be silly not to. I'm not the one that has all the ideas. This is where we want to go. What does everybody think? If I don't give them the opportunity to say that, they're not going to be around that long.
Yeah.
Trust me when I say, if you're not listened to, you're going to keep your eyes open. And it's the ones that you talk to that are sitting here going, I've been here for 100 years. Because nobody says, what do you think? And so if you create a leadership culture where you don't just bring the third grade teachers to central office, let's say, and say, we're going to redo the curriculum and I'm going to give you 6 hours, I'll be in my office. Yeah. You bring them in and say, what do you guys think?
Yeah, you're the experts.
We're actually like, here's my requirements. Standard. What do you guys think? You might find that things are right. And so having a culture where everybody gets to dance, everybody gets to lead, everybody gets to share. And you realize then that the youngers start to learn because they don't feel like they should keep their mouths shut. They can actually feel comfortable sharing and contributing. That grows confidence both in but out of the classroom. Suddenly your faculty meetings are a little bit longer because people feel like they can talk and it's not just looking at your watch. And so how do you create this environment where I'm not telling you what to do unless I need to? But at the same time, guys, how are we going to do fire drills this year? Now, you can't do that with every single thing. At some point, the conductor says, we're playing at this speed, or I want it this loud, or trombone's too much here. But at the most part, I can go to the clarinet or the oboe player and say, it's your solo. What are you thinking?
Yeah.
And then get out of their way.
Yeah, love that. And again, it's understanding from the Steve Jobs perspective that the room is smarter than any one person in the room. So how do we leverage the room, right?
Everybody has their own strengths and everybody has strengths to learn. So if you come down and say, this is how we're doing it, okay. But what if I don't know how to get there, but now I've just been told to do it? Oh, okay. But what if I have a conversation with somebody and I didn't know that you're actually able to mentor me for the next couple of days? Isn't that coaching?
Yeah, that's beautiful.
That's not how you make it. I'm gonna do the plug here. Isn't that how you make an impact?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Oh, well, Jeff, this has been such an amazing conversation and so many parallels with the work that we do. And yeah, we'll talk more about that at another time, but we love the opportunity for our listeners to get in touch with you. How can they do that?
I am looking forward to seeing so many close friends down at the down at the ISTE and ASCD conference in just a week or so in Florida. If you're down there, find me. I've got a few sessions. I'm fortunate enough to be a featured speaker this year, so you might see me on a couple places. If you're an instructional coach and you're down there, we have the instructional coaches playground on Monday at 11:30. But if you can't make it to that conference, please feel free to head on over to TeacherCast.net. Again, you can check out all of our coaching stuff. You can learn how to make a podcast. You can learn how to make a website. I do a lot of ed tech news and updates, lots of AI and stuff like that. If you'd like to have me come out to your school, if you want to just catch me on a Zoom call or whatever, jeffbradbury.com is my homepage. And you can find me, poke me, and I would love to work with you or your school district. And you can always check out my book, Impact Standards, available on Amazon, Kindle, Barnes and Nobles, etc.
That is awesome. Well, we have had such a wonderful time of learning, and thank you so much, Jeff, for sharing your life and all the love that you have for those interconnected opportunities just to build and grow and learn together.
And we'll make
Hey,
sure to include all those links in the show notes as well. Jeff, this has been an absolute pleasure to get to connect, and best of luck down at ISTE ASCD here very shortly.
thanks for having me.
Take care. All right, so for those that are watching this and not seeing the audio, you'll note that Lorna and I are not in the same location as we normally are. We're traveling, but I'm so glad that it was able to work out to be able to connect with Jeff for this conversation. And Lorna, I'd love for you to share what were some things that really stood out for you in this conversation with Jeff.
Yeah, I don't even know where to start because there are so many things that he shared that are highly impactful. So, first of all, of course, he talked quite a bit about the instructional coaching and how he has really envisioned that in terms of vertical coaching.
Yeah.
And I find that fascinating because uh, years ago, we had stepped into that idea as district leaders that we needed to be able to put coaches in schools, start exploring what does that look like, what is a coaching model, and I began to do a lot of research and reading around coaching, and our concept of it was more in that collaborative coaching. How
Yes.
do we bring teams together to work together effectively and build each other's capacity? But I read, oh my gosh, I read hundreds of books about coaching and never really quite found what I was looking for in terms of that collaboration. How do we access the supports from each other and not coming in as which many models are that idea of I'm an expert.
The
I'm going
coach
to
is the expert. Yeah.
Yes, I'm going to come into your classroom and I'm going to show you how to do this.
Yeah.
And what I grabbed from Jeff there is not that vertical coaching is not that. It's about us exploring content, and we do that as a whole group together. And his example was around Google, and then we start to explore, well, how is that working for you in your classroom? So that we're all really primarily focused on the content and not so focused on your deficits as a teacher.
Well, and I think this is key too, that when you're engaging in a coaching practice within a collaborative setting, we
Mhm.
always talk about this idea of distributive coaching,
Yeah,
that the expertise isn't held in our role, it's held in the room, and
yeah,
the role of the coach might be to solicit the expertise of another team member that
yeah.
can then teach it to another. Like, how do we leverage the team in a distributive coaching model, which recognizes everyone has expertise, and how could we share this? And when there are gaps, okay, I can jump in to help with some of those gaps, but I'm not the holder of all knowledge as the instructional coach.
No, and it may not be you as the instructional coach who does that support. It might be you connecting one teacher with another teacher and being able to share practice in that way.
So I want to
Another,
go back to that analogy of dancing, because what we're talking about is
yeah,
everybody gets to dance. It
yeah,
was the quote that Jeff shared. And I think that's really important to understand that. How do we give everyone that role? But I said it when we were in our conversation. And haven't you heard this over and over from anyone that we've brought on to be able to share their insights? This whole idea that if you don't have clarity of
yeah.
purpose or that strategic vision, or he talked about having he talked about the superintendent being the first dancer, and we could sub superintendent with whatever layer of leadership that we're talking about. But if the if the message coming from, if we're thinking of hierarchies from the top, is not clear and laid out, how could we ever set conditions for collaboration if nobody really knows where we're going to?
Mhm. Yeah, and that alignment and coherence is so absolutely critical When we set, or when, the leadership sets a goal and says, this is our priority going forward. Well, how do we actualize that without having everyone else who is actually going to play a role in that understanding what that goal is?
Yeah.
And so he talked about that, that alignment, and that everyone needs to understand the end goal, and that we're all working toward that. We might all have a little bit different role in that.
Yeah,
And
how our role helps us get there might change.
that's right. But in the end, we all have that common goal, but we need to be really clear on what that goal is.
And I loved what he said too, that my job is to help move us towards the that goal or that priority. How I do it might change based on the role that I'm playing, but my job, and I love that clarity, my job is to help us move forward and reach that goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love it.
So, once again, we'd love to thank our guest, Jeff Bradbury, for joining podcast, sharing expertise. Please make sure to check out the show notes to get any of those links. But again, that's teachercast.net if you're looking to reach out for a further conversation. And we always end off with 2 requests. First, please join or share our mailing list at jlinsiders.com, where we're putting out weekly content, resources, different things that we know you're going to find valuable in leading collaborative teams.
And finally, don't hesitate to reach out at questions@jigsawlearning.ca if you have a question, a future topic you'd love for us to explore, or if you'd just like to connect. We'd love to hear from you.
So, with that, we are wishing you all the best as you endeavor to build a culture of collaboration in your organization.
See you soon.
This podcast is a proud member of the Teach Better Podcast Network. Better today, better tomorrow, and the podcast to get you there. Explore more podcasts at www.teachbetterpodcastnetwork.com. We'll see you on the next episode.